Good morning. My name is Aaron Gravel, and I'm the program manager for the Nuclear Energy University program at DOE, located in the Germantown offices. It's great to be with you today, and certainly great to have the opportunity to introduce a few folks and introduce the FOAs that we will be discussing and talking about over the next 3 days. This morning, first off, we're going to have the opportunity to kick off the R&D FOA, which this year the number is DE FOA 0002128. And again, that's our Consolidated Innovative Nuclear Research R&D FOA. Additionally, later this afternoon at 4 p.m., we'll have an opportunity to hear introductory remarks and information concerning our scientific infrastructure support for CINR FOA. And that number is DE FOA 0002129. Again, welcome, and we are very excited about this year's calls and the opportunity to share again with you over the next 3 days information pertaining to the FOAs and the various work scopes in those FOAs. To start off, I would like to introduce Dr. John Gilligan, who's an academic director of the Innovative Nuclear Research Office, DOE's Innovative Nuclear Research Office, located at INL. And I'll go ahead and turn the time over to John now for some more introductions.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Can you hear me okay on the other microphone? Okay, good. Thank you. Well, again, welcome. Thank you for being with us. We have an exciting set of work scopes to present to you, as Aaron said, over the next 3 days. And this is our 12th year of presenting work scopes to you in the nuclear energy community. And thank you for being with us. Today, I have a special privilege to introduce the Assistant Secretary of Nuclear Energy, the new Assistant Secretary of Nuclear Energy, who was confirmed just in July, Dr. Rita Baranwal. Rita brings to us unique experience as a researcher and a scientist. She's been a manager at various levels and a leader of the GAIN program, which you may be familiar with from DOE in the past several years. She has unique experience with industry, national lab, DOE work, as well as university experience. So she's quite familiar with all the categories, all the different groups that we're going to be talking to today. So actually, this is the first time an assistant secretary has ever greeted us in the university community and others live. So we're very pleased about having Rita with us today to address our annual CINR webinar. Rita, thank you for being with us. Can you hear us? Rita will be coming to us from the Forrestal building downtown.
Yes, John, I can hear you.
All right, thank you for being with us, Rita. We really appreciate it very much.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And on behalf of the Office of Nuclear Energy, I'd like to welcome you to the fiscal year 2020 Consolidated Innovative Nuclear Energy webinar. As John mentioned, I do have experience actually in industry, as well as at the national lab level, as well as in the Naval Reactors program, where I did work on developing advanced nuclear fuel for the Navy. I do have to say that this CINR webinar is very important. In a prior role, we actually solicited input from the industry community to help craft the work scopes that were presented a few years ago. And prior to that role, I actually worked with my team in private industry to ensure that we had appropriate coverage to attend all of the sections of the webinar to make sure that we applied for FOA opportunities appropriately. So the CNI annual webinar does have a very special place in my heart, and I'm very privileged to be able to kick it off for you today. Researchers will have the opportunity to fully understand the scope of the FY 2020 CINR FOA and to review FY 2019 outcomes. This CINR is absolutely essential to maintain robust U.S. participation in nuclear energy research and development because our universities, industry, and national labs are best positioned to provide the innovative and transformative approaches that are necessary to fill current technology and knowledge gaps that must be addressed for long-term energy needs. The research that you all are conducting is crucial to driving the future of the nuclear industry. Research is an opportunity to discover and evaluate new ideas and technologies, and it thrives on the diversity of approaches and different perspectives. What better way to do this than through this CNR call and the CINR programs, which have provided a platform for researchers for over the past 11 years to propose the most creative solutions to the challenges, which are numerous, that face nuclear energy today. Since the start of programs such as NEUP, the Nuclear Energy University Program, the IUP, which is the Integrated University Program, and NEAT, Cross-Cutting Technology Development, NEAT is Nuclear Energy Enabling Technologies, and the Nuclear Science User Facilities, we have seen great success and growth. This is evident in the more than $680 million that are invested in students, universities, national labs, and industry across the United States. This funding has gone to 125 universities, 7 national labs, and 11 industry utility partners, representing 42 states and the District of Columbia. The projects coming out of these programs span the full spectrum of nuclear energy research, including the development of advanced reactor concepts to improve competitiveness and meet the nation's energy needs, development and analysis of technologies to ensure a sustainable nuclear fuel cycle, and advanced modeling and simulation methods to better understand nuclear reactor and fuel system behavior. These last 11 years have brought great innovation, collaboration with both domestic and international partners, as well as cutting-edge solutions. And I'm thrilled to be here to kick off this year and look forward to what the next 11 years will bring. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the webinar.
Dr. Barenwall for being with us. Again, for the first time, we've had an assistant secretary address our webinar audience live, and we appreciate that very much because she is a very busy person at this point. So it's my pleasure to introduce right now, I think, a very important person in our world, Joanne Hanners, who is our contracting officer at DOE, who makes the final decisions on procurement issues and awarding of contracts. So Joanne, thank you for being with us.
Everyone, and I'm Joanne Hanners, as John has said, and I'm the CEO for the FOA. We'll go ahead and get started with some overview. It's not going. Oh, thank you. Okay. First, we'll start off with how we need to submit a question during the webinar. Very important for us all to know. You'll go down to the bottom where the webinar ID field is, type that in, and we'll see that. Any questions that are not answered today will be on the NEUP.gov website with your answer. Please note that any specific questions for the individuals on eligibility or work scope details should be spoken to us with offline. Okay, we're going to review the FY 2019 outcomes. So in FY 19, DOE invested nearly $50 million in nuclear energy research facility access, cross-cutting technology development, and infrastructure awards in 25 states. So in total, that was 58 projects that were selected to receive the funding. Now, these awards provide funding in several different areas, which is the Nuclear Energy University Program, or the NEUP, the Nuclear Science User Facilities, NSUF, Nuclear Energy Enabling Technology, or the NEAT programs. We also provide assistance in the Gateway for Accelerated Innovation in Nuclear, the GAIN program. We're going to do some high-level overview of what some of the outcomes were. And for the NEUP, there was 585 applications received. At the bottom of the slide, you can see the different technologies that were funded. 173 applications were invited, with 222 full applications received. And of those applications, we had 40 applications that were recommended. For the NEAT outcomes, we had 96 pre-applications, 20 invited applications, and then we had 29 full applications with 5 recommended. For NSUF outcomes, we had 53 applications that were received from the pre-app, 22 invited applications, 15 full applications were received, with 8 applications recommended. For 2020, our FOA objectives are the DOE mission to advance U.S. nuclear power in order to meet the nation's energy needs by, first, enhancing the long-term viability and competitiveness of the existing U.S. reactor fleet, developing an advanced reactor pipeline, and lastly, implementing and maintaining the national strategic fuel cycle and supply chain infrastructure. All applications submitted under the FOA will need to demonstrate a strong tie to at least one of these 3. NE conducts cross-cutting nuclear energy research and development and associated infrastructure support activities to develop the innovative technologies. Funding mechanisms, we have the universities with cooperative agreements which are issued by DOE. The national labs have work authorizations managed by DOE. We have industry, which is cooperative agreements, and then nuclear science, the NSUF access is an NSUF user agreement. Collaborative opportunities, NSUF, which requires a user agreement, as I stated. Applications are for CINR, R&D support, and NSUF access, or NSUF access only. Eligibility requirements ensure that R&D is delivered on time to support programmatic missions, encourage diverse participation, and is based on performance, no cost extensions, and project load. Now, this official FOA, which is DEFOA 0002128, can be found at www.grants.gov, and then you can apply at www.nup.gov. Important dates we all want to make sure that we remember. The FOA will be released pending finalization August of 2019. NSUF LOIs will be September 4th of 19. R&D NSUF pre-applications are due September 24th, and IRPs are excluded from that date. NSUF preliminary statement of works November 21st, 2019. Full application invitations will be December of 2019. NSUF final statement of works, January 23rd, 2020. Full IRP applications and full R&D applications will be February 11th of 2020. Now I'm going to turn the time over to Greg Belay.
Joanne, thank you. I appreciate the effort that DOE puts into making sure the FOA is available, making draft work scopes available for you in the community. Please do understand that those are draft work scopes and are subject to change. I'm going to be taking you through the funding opportunity announcement today. I'll talk about a general overview and the structure of the document and the program, a little bit about policy updates and some reminders for you, and then the review process, tools, and submissions. There's been no change in the organization of the document. We have those projects represented in Appendix A, where universities are able to lead. Those constitute the program supporting and our mission supporting packages. Universities, national laboratories, or industries are encouraged to apply in Appendix B. Please do note that industry may only lead on those work scopes that are directly attributed to NSUF. And then we do anticipate having 3 IRPs for the university community this year, where we certainly encourage and expect many collaborations to happen in those, as those are the program directed pieces of work. Here are some brief summary statements for you for the program supporting, mission supporting, and program directed. These do have an influence on the weights of your review scores between relevancy as well as the technical reviews, as the program supporting elements more directly focus on program needs. Mission supporting are those items that are creative, innovative, and transformative. And program directed, those are directly tied to near-term significant needs of the department. For Appendix A, once again, your maximum award size will be $800,000 over 3 years, with mission supporting up to $400,000 unless otherwise noted in the FOA appendix. Your period of performance is 3 years. You may have up to 7 years if irradiation and PIE are proposed in an NSUF work scope. Again, only universities are eligible to lead in this work scope, and we encourage collaborations and diversity between universities, national laboratories, and industry. Expected funding is approximately $40 million. We anticipate that that would be on the order of 40 awards. In Appendix B, these are cross-cut NEAT funded packages, which will be up to $1 million for the R&D component. NSUF work scopes for R&D associated with access would be $500,000, up to $4 million for irradiation and or PIE, $1.5 million for irradiations, or $750,000 for beamline or PIE access request. Period of performance, as previously stated, 3 years for an R&D package, up to 7 if irradiation and PIE are proposed in NSUF work scopes. NSUF work scopes are open to all applicants this year. Only industry may lead on NEAT work scopes. Industry may not request lead on an NSUF work scope, but is certainly encouraged to collaborate. Estimated number of awards, there is approximately $7 million for approximately 7 NEAT awards, plus an additional $2 million for NSUF related R&D, and that will be accompanied by $10 million for NSUF access. NSUF program management will be with us later in the day to fully detail their package, expectations, updates, etc., as this is just a brief overview of the document. We're excited that the IRPs are back with us this year. We have 3 for you in 2 areas. Reactor Concepts is offering infrastructure for support of molten salt reactor concepts. That'll be $5 million over 3 years. We have 2 IRPs in the NEAMS program, thermohydraulics and fuels. So 1.1, thermal fluids applications in nuclear energy, $3 million over 3 years. NEAMS 1.2, multi-scale nuclear fuel performance, that will be $3 million for 3 years. Only universities are eligible to lead in this area. However, collaborations are expected and international collaborations are encouraged. This is a quick summary. This should be old news for everybody in the audience for the summary for the participation for Appendix A, B, and C. The presentation will be fully available on our website, so you can go back to these slides for reference if you choose. Your application page limits, please do pay attention to these. We have applicants who miss these page limits every year. The outcome of that is that your application is terminated at the appropriate page limit, and there is material that your reviewers will never see. Your letter of intent for an application requesting NSUF access is 2 pages, 3 pages for any pre-application that is submitted, a full 10-page application for requesting R&D support in the NEUP area, and 15 pages if you're requesting R&D access or R&D support coupled with NSUF access. There's a few additional pages in there to make sure that you can appropriately detail the work that you intend to do. For your IRPs, you have up to 50 pages to discuss and describe your application for the IRPs. And again, we have 3 IRPs out of 2 program areas for you this year. Collaboration guidance, this has not changed, but we do have a little update on how we will define collaborators and what the expectation is. So we'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. The collaboration is specific to enhance and diversify DOE's research portfolio. By that, we're looking for those collaborations of the universities with minority serving institutions or underrepresented groups, industry, and foreign institutions. Since national laboratories are already well represented in these portfolio, please understand there are no additional points of consideration on offer for collaboration with a national laboratory. For university-led applications, except for those work scopes listed in Appendix B, any non-university collaborator in composite can account for no more than 20% of the total funds provided by the government. Applications with international collaborations, those do need to be developed such that they stand on their own and they do not require the collaboration for either execution or success, as there will be no US funds provided to international collaborators. Therefore, the federal government needs to understand that your package can be successful if funded without complete execution of an international piece of your research project. Funding, as always, is for US institutions only. While international organizations are encouraged to collaborate, but they must not be a denied party or a party requiring an export license. Export control is the purview of the institution who is receiving the funding. Please be aware of that. US funding, as we previously stated, will not be provided to international collaborators. We do have some additional points of consideration for MSI and URG partners, and that is the degree to which those partners make contributions in the work that you do. Please recall that an MSI, minority serving institution, that is attributed to the institution, and that's obtained by us as a listing through the Department of Education. An underrepresented group, you will be responsible to define what you believe to be an underrepresented group represented on your application, and that's based on a voluntary self-identification. And as previously stated, national laboratories are not considered for the purposes of diverse partnerships. Collaborations will only be evaluated by your relevancy reviewers. They are not required to achieve the highest relevancy score, and in fact, your score will be capped at a certain point, and once that's happened, any additional points of consideration are not counted. I'd like to take you now to a few policy updates and some reminders. Consistent with last year, CINR reviews are no longer performed in a semi-blind format. That was a large change last year, so please do know that you don't have to blind your application. We did receive several applications that were blinded. We did not let the applicants have an opportunity to rework those. They're simply passed on to reviewers as they're written. So do know that you can name the institutions, you can name your investigators, you can talk about your facilities. There's no need to blind your application. All the CINR applications must include a list of publications that have resulted from previous CINR supported projects. Keep in mind that NSUF2 applications may be led by universities, national laboratories, or industry. This is a change from last year, so be aware that anybody can now lead on NSUF2. You are required to obtain a DUNS number. We are aware that that can take some time. Please know that that's not a process that the offices here in the federal complex or the administration at the INL can account for. So that's something that you will have to do, and you must register with the SAM website, and we give you those links here. NSUF applicants are required to affirm their ability to accept the user agreement on submission of your pre-application. Do know that when you check that box, you are affirming your acceptance of that. It is a non-negotiable document. For the NSUF pre-applications, you have a separate section that is required for you to describe and discuss your readiness. They'll be providing some information later and what constitutes that readiness, but in a nutshell, you must have all your samples ready to be irradiated or examined. There must not be any prep work, etc. required. Your statement of work will be uploaded to neup.gov, and that will be appended to an existing document. PIs and collaborators are considered final when you submit your pre-application. So do know that that is a hard stop deadline. We have had extenuating circumstances in the past. They are rare, but they are addressed as needed. You as the PI are responsible for selection of the appropriate work scope. Your application will be competed in the work scope that you select, so please do be careful. It feels like every year we have applications that are potentially applicable to a variety of work scopes, and oftentimes the PI selects those that have the largest budget available. Please know that that's where it will stay, and oftentimes they don't compete well. Pick the work scope that best matches your work. Your application can only be competed in a single work scope area, so we do realize and understand that some decisions have to be made. For the purposes of the review and reviewer assignments, conflict of interest, if necessary, can be attributed to the individual, but is primarily, we manage our conflict of interest at the institutional level. You as an applicant are responsible for not exceeding submission limits. Materials required by the FOA, you have to have these to us on the due date at the due time. They will not be accepted late. Uninvited applications may be submitted as full applications per the stipulations of the FOA. Do know that if you have an uninvited NSUF application, it may not be submitted as a full application. That's because of the expense associated with the feasibility assessments. We've already talked about US funding not being provided to international institutions. And for university-led applications, except those in Appendix B, your non-university collaborators in composite no more than 20% of your budget. I hope everybody can still see the presentation. It indicates the connection is lost here on the machine at the podium. Your pre-award costs. You may charge allowable costs to an award that is in negotiation 90 days immediately preceding the effective award date of your package. That award date is anticipated to be October 1st. Do know that you are at risk. If for some reason negotiations are not successful, you will not be reimbursed for those costs. Please do not lock the cells, your budget cells, in your applications. If that happens, your application may be disregarded without further review, may not be returned to you. And the actuality of that situation is it results in a lot of back and forth between your Office of Sponsored Programs and the Department of Energy when they're doing the procurements, requires them to receive additional spreadsheets, may delay the start of your program, but that will be considered to be October 1st. Project or PI transfer, do know that applications submitted to the FOA are awarded to the applicant, not to the PI. They will not be transferred pre-award to another lead PI if the PI changes institutions, and an application is considered submitted once the pre-application date closes. PIs moving from one institution to another, there is an existing policy for that at nup.gov. We can recognize PIs at a different institution, but the award will stay with the institution at which the award was made. Any additional changes to your partners or collaborators as your application is being developed beyond the pre-application phase must be socialized and approved by the integration office. Please understand, we are only wanting to manage our conflict of interest insofar as reviews have been completed and doesn't result in a situation where we have a conflict. We have some new material here for you on how we define collaborators. As always, it is an individual making a defined material contribution that's critical to the success of the project or contributing to joint publications. These words are new. Any individual that appears in your project summary, your technical narrative, your benefit of collaboration, your coordination and management plan, or your budget documents should be listed directly on your application form. Any individual who doesn't meet the above criteria, please don't list them as collaborators on your application. NSUF technical leads are not considered collaborators unless they receive funding from the R&D side of the project, and if they do, then they should be listed, must be listed. You as a PI will certify that all collaborators are listed on the application form and have agreed to participate on the project. We've had circumstances arise where we found that not to be the case. Please understand that as those circumstances have the potential to happen in the future, your application may be recused from any further consideration by the department. You must list all individuals involved in the project, including those at your own institution, on the application form. That's driven by our policy to appropriately manage conflict of interest, and so that we know that all of the applicants who are listed have agreed to participate, because you are signing them up for some terms and conditions when you submit your application. Our submittal guidelines have not changed. These are not new to the community. In a nutshell, you are ineligible to submit if you're a PI in an active IRP, if you have 3 or more R&D projects that are going to be active after December 31st of 2020, if you have a no-cost extension on any DOE NE funded project that will be active beyond December 31st, 2020, you are ineligible to submit. If you're a university PI, you can be on no more than 6 pre-applications, with 3 of those as a PI. We have a full application submittal limit. A university PI, you can have no more than 1 IRP or 3 active R&D projects at any given time. You may not submit more full applications than you are eligible to hold. NSUF, we understand that through the 7-year time frame, there might be some things where you have opportunities to complete other projects. We will address those on a case-by-case basis. If you are an applicant to Appendix B, you are limited to 3 applications per institution per work scope area. If you are a university lead, that will also fully attribute to your ability to have 6 pre-applications, 3 as the lead PI, up to 6 as a collaborator. Any existing NCE that will end before December 31st is not subject to the restriction. NCE requests for projects ending in 2020 must be submitted by April 15th of 2020. Just a quick guideline and a summary slide for that. Universities, national laboratories, and industry limited to 3 pre-applications per work scope area in Appendix B. Those are NEAT CTD funded research. As I stated, for university PIs, those count towards the pre-application limit. IRP applications, you're ineligible to submit as a PI if you're designated as a PI for more than 1 currently funded DOE NE research project. If you have 1 NE research project, you may apply for an IRP. If you have 2, you may not apply for an IRP. NSUF projects requesting R&D support are evaluated on a case-by-case basis. We understand the time that may be spent performing irradiations, etc. NSUF access-only applications are exempt from the eligibility restrictions, so please do keep that in mind. As we previously stated, uninvited pre-applications can be competed as a full application. However, they must meet relevancy review requirements to go on for a full review. You must have an average score of at least high relevance for the relevancy aspect and at least moderate program priority for an uninvited full application to maintain and attract a full technical review. The weighting of the scores has not changed and is driven depending on whether it's mission supporting, program directed, or for the access only component of NSUF. The FOA details all the criteria in the sections for the application type, so please do consult the document. And as we discussed, additional relevancy considerations are given to help diversify the NE portfolio. And do know that program priority is a separate criteria scored by the relevancy reviewers. Semi-blind reviews, a thing of the past. Not saying that they wouldn't come back if the community wanted that, but currently it's not happening. Cost sharing. For applications led by universities, cost sharing is permitted, but it is not required and it is not a reviewed criteria. For applications led by entities other than universities or FFRDCs, national laboratories, a cost share of at least 20% of the total allowable cost is required. That is defined for you here. is defined in the FOA and examples are given. Cost sharing does not apply to the value of the NSUF access. And again, cost sharing is not an evaluated criteria. Briefly, for the review process tools and some submission guidelines, the review criteria have not been updated this year. The review modalities are the same that we have used in the past. The processes are well known to the community. You have pre-applications that will receive 2 relevancy and 1 peer review. The result of that outcome is an invited and a non-invited status. Full applications typically receive 2 relevancy reviews. They may have more, and 3 peer reviews. Your program-directed applications are reviewed individually by a common set of reviewers who are then convened into a panel that typically is composed of 2 relevancy reviewers, 3 peer reviewers, and the appropriate federal program managers who are responsible for the area. Do know that as we review IRPs this year, we do retain the right to reach out to applicants for clarifying questions. We're not obligated to do so. If you are asked a clarifying question, you may not include additional content for your application. You may only clarify on the question that you are asked. We have some tools on the website to help you understand the FOA. We've got the full workflow up that was on the iTest slides earlier. You can find them at the link indicated. All of the federal and technical points of contact for the variety of work scopes will be listed on the web and in the FOA, and that same thing is true for the IRP points of contact. If you have questions, technical questions, you can find the TPOCs at nup.gov or the link that was on the prior slide. If you have any questions about procurement, please contact Andrew Ford at DOE-ID. His email address is listed here. Do contact my office if you have any questions on general application submittal questions. The first phone number, 526-1602, that'll put you in contact with Drew Thomas. The second phone number will ring my desk, or you can find us at nup@inl.gov. This is a recap of the dates that Joanne took you through earlier. Those are very important dates. Please note that these are all 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So with that, we can entertain questions. I'd invite Aaron, John, Joanne to the podium. If we have any questions, we'll try and do the best we can to find the appropriate person. John, Joanne, Aaron?
We will stay on the line for several minutes to start taking questions. If you do have them, please input your questions by typing them into the question box, and we'll relay those to the presenters. To kick this off, normally how many PIs are in a team?
That's completely up to the applicant's institution. We don't have a maximum number or a minimum number. We have seen single applicants and we've seen many applicants. Aaron, do you have any words of guidance from DOE's perspective?
Typically, the prime awardee has a single PI, but there can be multiple co-PIs named. But the main interaction, once the award is in place, would be with a single prime PI at the university or other entity that would receive the award.
We were told that the impact of reviewing the semi-blind process would be analyzed by DOE-NE, i.e. diversity of PIs receiving funding. I would like to know the results of this analysis.
Yeah, that's a good question. We presented that at the NETO meeting well, I guess we didn't. Announcements were made after that. But actually, the percentage of junior PIs, that is assistant and associate professors that received awards, actually went up. It's up to 59% junior faculty now as a result of changes in the the semi-blind process. And we also had 18% of the awards went to female faculty, which is up slightly. 77% of the awards went to had collaborators at national labs, which also went up. Also, the 41% of the awards went to projects that had collaborators with industry, which also went up. So it looks like for most of the and 19 first-time university PIs received awards out of the 39 that we've awarded so far. So, and which one was that?
61% went to any departments.
Oh, yeah, another, I think, important metric that we have, 61% of the awards went to nuclear engineering departments. It's not required that you be in a nuclear engineering department to be a PI. That number has fluctuated over the years, a little less than 50%, but it's back up to 61% now. So that's the analysis of the current statistics from the latest awards.
So at the NETHO meeting coming up at the American Nuclear Society, these numbers will be provided with a retrospective look with what has happened in the past. That'll be an opportunity to have that discussion appropriately. But as John has indicated, we have a slight increase in a lot of categories, and I don't think we saw any major differences, did we?
No, the number of awards going to junior faculty went up. The number of awards going to female faculty went up. The number of awards going to industry collaborators went up. National lab collaborators went up. So I think positive in most of the ways that DOE looks at this. I think mostly the ways that universities look at this too, I think is a very positive thing.
Thank you for the question.
Do you have any recommendations for new junior faculty?
Well, in terms of make sure you read the FOA, make sure you're addressing all of the points brought up in the work scopes. This is a mission-oriented kind of approach to doing research. So make sure you're addressing the needs in the work scope, in the FOA. It's good to have collaborators, I think. It is possible to win an award without, as a single PI. That's somewhat unusual. So I think because of the nature of the kind of projects we have, they are interdisciplinary, very unusual if you had all the expertise yourself. So seek out good collaborators. They don't have to be at other universities. They could be at your own universities, but perhaps other departments. But certainly they have to be the best to address the problems in that particular work scope.
You know, another suggestion that I would have, as opposed to just reading the FOA, take a look at the Q&As that are posted at the neup.gov website. They can be a huge help to you in clarifying a variety of information that's in the FOA.
One additional point, please do understand that all prior work done by the department through this program is fully listed and available on the NUP website under the roll down for the appropriate program area. So if you hover R&D, that will roll down, it'll give you full abstracts, and if final reports are available, so you can see all the work that has happened in the past.
Also, it was also suggested that you talk to the technical points of contact. That's before the pre-applications are due. Do reach out if you can. Try to get in contact with them. Maybe discuss what you have in mind in terms of the project. I think that's always a good way of doing business and would help you in the long run. So I think that's a good. And we hope that if the technical contacts are not responsive, let me know or let one of us know. We can try to make that happen.
For an NUP R&D proposal, can I budget small equipment?
Yes, you can budget small equipment. There's no maximum or minimum allowed in your application, but it must be justified for the purchase.
Many times the reviewers may misunderstand a proposal during a review. Are questions of clarification encouraged in the review process, or has the CINR process considered a rebuttal or response phase?
We do not have a rebuttal and response phase for CINR. You do have opportunity to address any comments in your pre-application by writing your full application appropriately. Please understand that we're working with current year fiscal dollars in the year they are spent, and we have to account for a full application and review process, as well as the full contract and negotiation phase. So we have what seems like ample time really gets whittled away.
Currently in the FOA, there is a section when looking at IRP panels, we may have an opportunity there to ask questions of the finalists for the IRP awards. Those are the larger awards. And so we're trying to work that into our merit review criteria and our ability to ask questions at that time. It would be a very limited kind of scope in terms of asking and trying to get things clarified from the PIs at that point, just for IRPs only.
Could you repeat the minimum scores for the uninvited pre-proposals to be fully technical peer reviewed?
Sure. I want to go ahead and get this on the screen so everybody can see that as well. So you have to be, for your relevancy score, you have to have at least high relevance. That's an average score between your two reviewers. And for program priority, it has to be at least a moderate program priority. The difference between those two things is that the relevancy, it could be seen as highly relevant, but perhaps the department already has made an inordinate investment in the area, is waiting for research results to come back before they want to move on. So while something may be of inordinately high priority, it may be very high relevance, it may be very low priority, and those are two separate issues.
Can the current PI of an ongoing NUP project be on an NUP pre-proposal this year as a co-PI?
Yes.
What is the policy of non-funded industrial collaborations?
I don't know that there's a policy that exists for non-funded collaborations. However, those institutions, if they are a national laboratory, even if they are non-funded, must have a letter of authorization. So do be cognizant of that. If they are making a contribution, it should be fully captured in the benefit of collaboration document, and they must be listed as a collaborator. Other indices on that?
Same with industry, I think was the question. I believe, yeah, industry would have to show, you'd have to show that in the benefits of collaboration, even though they're not getting any money, they'd have to show some kind of effort or make some kind of commitment to the project. We don't want to have phantom authors out there or phantom collaborators.
But I think the point is if it's a $0 collaborator, that we still want to know. We still want to understand the nature of the collaboration and that it's listed as a $0 collaborator.
Absolutely.
To clarify, during the pre-proposal stage, you cannot submit both a research proposal and an IRP proposal, which you are the lead PI for both.
That is correct. You may choose to campaign a pre-application and then not campaign a full application. You may not have a full application and an IRP application at the same time.
But you could have a pre-application.
You may campaign a pre-application and then make your decision.
Can other government entities collaborate, i.e. the USNRC or others?
We have seen collaborations with other government entities. Sometimes funding between those agencies is not allowed because it's not a double dip situation. So I'll turn to Joanne for any additional guidance on that.
No, you're correct.
Okay.
No double dipping. Yeah.
I do want to mention something.
One more thing from Aaron.
So that information will be very clearly spelled out on the FOA on who can collaborate, and all of the information that was just shared is actually there.
To follow up on the small equipment budget question, how much of the budget is allowed for small equipment?
There's no limit right now, but if it was only an equipment proposal, unlikely it's going to be funded because there's no work actually being done. So, of course, there's an infrastructure FOA that you can ask for equipment up to, well, certainly in the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 range with some cost sharing requirements. Equipment can be purchased though on the R&D and the CINR. That's not a problem. And so small is relative to the size of the award, I guess. So we've seen some equipment of the order of a couple $100K being used in the standard R&D projects, which are $800K.
We'd certainly strongly suggest you listen in at 4 o'clock though for the infrastructure FOA presentation. That is in support of CINR work. So certainly consider it.
I think the question was also regarding a letter of intent in particular, right? The same thing.
Yeah, the same answer applies for the LOI.
Yeah.
Can a person be co-PI on 2 applications?
Yes.
Want to give the limits, Greg? So,
Yeah, so if you're in the university community, you can be on up to 6 applications, 3 as a principal investigator and 3 as a co-PI. If you're not a principal investigator on any of those applications, you could be a co-PI on 6 applications, and then the numbers just vary between those boundaries.
are there any special cases where pre-award spending can be activated beyond 90 days prior? An example would be if there are international vendors involved, for example.
Yes, it can be extended, but you must have a CO authorization prior to the going over the 90 days.
And you have to have approval of your own university too, of course, because they're going to pick up the tab if something goes wrong.
So I have a comment, and I believe this is a question for clarification. Are pre-applications not required for any UPR&D proposals, as was done in FY 2019?
No, pre-applications are absolutely required this year. That was a unique set of circumstances.
And that was in
2018,
18.
not 2019, right?
Yeah. Last year we had pre-applications, and I think everyone was pleased with the institution of pre-applications last year.
Just to follow up, pre-applications are not required for an IRP.
Can a foreign collaborator receive funding if the foreign institution matches funding?
No.
Is there a maximum number of active projects that an industry organization can be on or collaborate on at any given time?
No.
So one clarification here on the NEAT work scopes, you can only submit 3 applications per work scope per institution. So that would be the one
Right.
case.
That would be as lead. I believe the question was specific for collaborations.
What is the difference between an LOI and a pre-application?
So an LOI is a letter of intent that notifies the NSUF office that you are going to submit an application to their shop. What they need to do is find the appropriate technical representation from the complex to work with you on a statement of work. So that's what's encountered in a letter of intent. Pre-application is a 3-page document that is fully reviewed for relevancy and then attracts a single technical review that should describe and discuss your project to the extent that a decision could be made on an invitation. So that's the difference between an LOI and a pre-application.
Yeah, LOI is only for NSUF type project.
We have about 5 minutes left. We'll keep the line open for any questions over the next minute or so before wrapping up.
We'll get to those.
Once we are finished with the presentation, you are able to either ask questions on this webinar format or to email any questions to neup@inl.gov, and those will be answered to you specifically, but also posted out on the public question and answer after the webinar concludes. Those are all the questions we have. I want to thank everyone here for presenting and everyone for attending. We do have a presentation beginning at 12:30 Eastern time on the light water reactor sustainability program, and we'll meet back with you then. Thank you.
Thank you.